Hi friends, today we will learn parameterization in QTP. First of all, let us understand what is parameterization. Okay, the word parameterization implies that you want to send some data to your program, in our case to our test. Let's take an example. We have a test and that test is designed basically to log into an application. Okay, let's take the example of the flight application. I want to log into this flight application. Okay, manually we'll perform certain tasks. I want to log into this flight application, and obviously you will do that login with one single test data, right? See, I'll give my username as user1, and you all know that the default password is Mercury. So I have given that, I have logged into the application, and once the application is opened, I want to close it. These are the steps that I want to do. But as you have seen, we have done that with only one single test data called user1, right? The next time I want to perform the same thing with another test data, with some other username I want to perform. The third time some other username, which means multiple test data is there, and I want to perform a login operation with this multiple test data. How to do that via automation, that is what we are actually going to learn today. Now, this parameterization, the concept simply says that if you want to send some test data from some external source to your test so that it can be applied on the software. Okay, that's the general definition of parameterization: sending data from some external source to your test, multiple test data. That's called as parameterization. Now, as you can see on my screen, this parameterization can be achieved. These are the various ways in which it can be done. The first thing that we'll be learning is how it can be done through the data table. Okay, so let me launch my QTP. For that, we will be learning how to do parameterization through the data table. I'll launch my QTP, and in this add-in window, at this point of time, we don't need any add-ins because we are actually working on the Windows based application, the flight application. So no need to select any of the add-ins at this point of time. Click on OK. And once the QTP launches, launch a new test, and let's start the recording. What is it that we are trying to do? We want to do the operation on the flight application, right? So the first thing is that a part of the programming that we would be doing would be descriptive. I want to launch the flight application. So this is how I can do that. Say system util dot there's a spelling mistake, util dot system util. I'm sorry friends, system util. When you say dot, you will see that a drop down menu would come, out of which you need to select run, and you need to give the path of your the flight program, whatever flight program we have this flight program installed by default when you have QTP, right? So where it is located, that path you need to specify. Generally all your programs would be loaded in your program file, so just go there, and I just want to gather the path, nothing more than that. Okay, you will have something called as HP over here. Click on HP, Quick Test Professional, and here you'll have a folder called samples. This is where all the applications are present, and app. Now this flight 3A, 4A, 4B, all these are the executable programs. Any of these things you can take and you can execute the program. So let's take the flight 4A. You can take whichever you want, that's not an issue. I want this path, whatever is the path for this flight 4A, I want to take that path. So copy down the path. It is showing you that this is the complete path. So copy down the path into your program. What is the name of the program, friends? It's flight 4A, right? So just give that flight 4A dot exe. You are just telling what is the location, where it is located on your system, that you are telling. So once I execute this program, this part, if I say system.util.run and give some path of a executable program which is on my system, your QTP would launch that application. So if I click on run at this point, you will see that the flight application login window would be launched. Okay, now the next thing that I want to do is I want to do a recording. I just want to do a recording using one single test data. So I'm putting my tool on recording mode. It's a Windows application. I'm saying record and run the test on any Windows based application, which means whatever application is currently opened on that, you do the recording. Okay, so click on apply. Okay, and now on this flight application, give some test data. User1 is my first agent name, and the default password should always be Mercury. So give the username and the password, click on OK button, and once the flight reservation window has opened, I just want to close it. That's it. These are the steps that I'm trying to do. Click on stop recording. So you see that a corresponding script got generated with the username that I have given and the password. As we have already discussed yesterday, the password is always generated in a set secure format. The password Mercury which I have given, that's shown in an encrypted format. So if you want, you can remove it. If this is more comfortable, you can just remove the encrypted password, but ensure that you don't put set secure. You need to put only set over there. So I'm saying that you log in. The first line of the code is saying that you open the flight application, then give the agent name called user1, then give the password Mercury, click on the OK button, and once the flight reservation window opens, close it. Okay, with one single test data, how it is working, let's run the program and check. Click on OK. You will see that with one single test data, your program is launching, and finally it's closing also. Things are happening very quickly. Fine. Now, what is parameterization? See, instead of accepting only user1 and Mercury, I want my test to run with multiple test data. You know, I have user2, I have user3. Like this, I have so many different users. For all these users, my program should run. One solution is you can actually copy down this program. Okay, copy down this program, and because it's the same code, I can just paste it over here. You know, for as many number of users, I can just change the username. This is user3 with which I want to log in. This is user2. So this program, if you run it, you will see that this will run 3 times with 3 different users. Every time it is opening the flight application, then giving the user1 name, Mercury. Similarly, next time user2, Mercury. So this will run 3 times, but this is not, you know, this is not programming, because if I have 100 different users with which I want to log in, you just can't copy this code that long, right? So this is where the concept of parameterization comes into picture. Even though this program would run when you are copying the same code again and again, this is not efficient programming. So what we do is we do parameterization. Now we will start learning parameterization using data table. See, this is one test data. Now what you should do is, currently the program is getting generated in the expert view, right? Now go into keyword view, and in this keyword view you will find all the step-by-step instructions. Whatever you have done, you know, step-by-step instructions would be there. Now in this agent name block, go to the value, you know, where you have entered the user1 as value. Click on this configure the value button, you know, control F11 also you can use. Now click on this button, and it's saying that previously it was accepting a constant. What is a constant? Something which is, you know, which remains like that. Now I want to parameterize it. So click on the second radio button, give some name to this block, any name you can give. Because it's the agent name that I'm accepting, I'm giving the name as agent name. I'm saying it's in the global sheet. We have already seen what is global sheet and action sheet in our descriptive programming, right? So global sheet, the iterations happen automatically. If it's an action sheet, you need to put your loop. See, we have already covered all those programs. Now click on OK. We'll just stick to the defaults. I'm saying global sheet, click on OK. Similarly, the password also I want to change. So again, click over here and click on this configure button, change it to password, and here you make it password. This is the title that I'm giving, for the column name, nothing more than that. Click on OK. Now you see that correspondingly in your data table, the agent name and password have been activated. Friends, when you're trying this program, basically sometimes if the data table is not activated, you won't find this. So first ensure that you click on the view option and ensure that this data table is highlighted. Okay, this part should be highlighted. Only when the data table is highlighted, all these things would happen. Okay, now let's go back to the expert view where the program is generated, and you see that previously it was saying set user 1, but now it's saying set. Go into the data table, and in the agent name column, from the agent name column which is present in the global sheet, you take the data. See, the data table is consisting of two sheets called global and action, similar to your sheets in Excel, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3 we have, right? Similarly, here you have global and action, and from this global sheet it is saying that you take the data. Similarly, for the password, it's saying go to the global sheet and you find a column called password, take the data from there. Finally click on OK. So now here I will give multiple test data. The second time it should log in with user 2 and the password is Mercury. The third time again the same password, but the username is user 3, user 4 and Mercury. Now this is what is called as parameterization through data table. It's a very simple concept, friends. I'll actually send you all the navigation, so just listen to the course and just try to understand how things are happening. So when I run this program, you will see that it will first log in with to the flight application with this username and password. The next time with the second test data it will run. The third time with the third test data. So multiple test data you are executing on the same part of the code. Okay, let's run this program. Click on OK. See, it's running with the first test data, opening and closing. Second test data, it's running very fast. So for all the 4 test data, my program has run, and in the test results window it is showing everything has worked properly. Test 1, test 2 for the first iteration, second iteration, all that stuff we have. This is what is called as parameterization. Now remember, friends, if the same test data is put in the action sheet, things won't work in this way. We have created a program using loops, right? You have to do all that stuff, otherwise it won't work. Okay, now this is the very fundamental concept of parameterization using data table keyword view. That's what we have seen, right? Now the same parameterization through the data table can be done in some other way. That's using what is called as a data driver. Now let's open a new test and let's see how it actually works. Okay, I'll just copy the very first line using which I'm invoking the application. I'm going into a new test, friends, entirely new test. Okay, and this part of the program is only to launch the flight application. Okay, and after launching the flight application, you should always do the recording with one single test data. Okay, once you do that with one single test data, you can always enhance it for multiple test data. This is how it actually happens. Now user 1 is my agent name and the password is Mercury. Click on OK. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't put my tool on recording mode. Okay, we need to first put it on recording mode and then do these activities because we want a script, right? So first open the flight application and do the recording of entering the username and the password. Just give me a second. This is my flight program, right? Fine. Now put your tool on recording mode. It's a Windows application that we are recording. Click on OK and now give some username. The username can be anything. The password should be Mercury. Click on OK. Fine. And once the application opens, stop. Close that. Okay, and stop the recording. The same activities that we have done previously, we are again trying to do, but now you see that there is no data in the data table. It's a completely new test, but I want to do the parameterization. To make it simpler, let us remove the set secure option and make this password as Mercury, so that it's easy to understand. Okay, now how to activate the data driver? Let us see. These are the navigations. Click on the tools menu and here you find something called data driver. Okay, click on this data driver, and now it's asking you, whether you want to parameterize the password or the username. You just first select the username, click on this parameterize button. Okay, now say parameterize all. Select the second radio button you see over here and click on this option. This is for editing the parameter options. Okay, you click on that, give some name similar to what we have done previously. I'll give the name as agent name only, because it's a tab where the agent name is stored. Again, let's go with the global sheet. Click on OK. So the first value has been parameterized. The second thing, I want to parameterize the password. So Mercury, click on parameterize, say parameterize all, click on this edit option and give some name. You can just, there's no necessity that you need to change the name, but let us put some column name which is understandable. Okay, now click on OK, click on finish, click on OK. Now you see that in your program, automatically in the data table certain values have come, because we have done the parameterization through the data driver. Okay, similar to what we have done in keyword view, this is another way of doing that. Okay, whichever you are comfortable with, you can just learn that. Okay friends, now concentrate. The second username I'm giving, third username I'm giving, fourth username I'm giving, and the passwords. So again the same thing would happen. If I run this program, it will run 4 times. 4 times it will launch the flight application. It will do the login, close that application. 4 times it will do for all the test data. Okay, let's run it. Say this for the second time it's running. It's running very fast. Second, third time, and the fourth time. Okay, this is how parameterization can be done. A very basic concept of parameterization. We have actually seen how to do parameterization from Excel and all that when we were working on descriptive programming, right? Now this is actually a different way of doing the same parameterization. Now let's see this. We have finished off, we have seen how to do parameterization using keyword view and using the data driver. Both are happening through the data table. Now parameterization can be done from some external components. Now flat file, what is a flat file? Flat file is nothing but the files that you open in Notepad. Whatever files you open in Notepad, generally we call them as text files, right? So from the text files also it is possible to do the parameterization. Similarly from Excel, XML, database, all these things are possible. We have a part of the parameterization from flat file, Excel, XML, all this stuff we have seen in the descriptive programming. What we haven't seen over there in those classes, we'll try to look into that now. So what I'll do now is I'll create a Notepad file with the same test data. Okay, I'm opening Notepad and see this. I'm giving the agent name over here and give a tab space between columns. Between columns you need to give a tab space. This is mandatory. Okay, give a tab space, and the next column is password. Now password, right? Fine. Now give the test data. What is my first test data? User 1, right? Give a tab space. Give only a tab space. Don't give anything more. Mercury. Similarly, user 2, and the second one is Mercury. Though they are not aligned in a proper way, doesn't matter. Okay, agent name and password columns, you see that they are not aligned properly, but still it doesn't matter. It just ensure that you give a tab space between these fields. That is mandatory. User 3 and Mercury. User 4 and that's it. This is the test data. I'll save it somewhere on my desktop, let us say. Okay, save as a text file, an individual text file. I'll give the name as test data.txt, test data.txt, and I'll save it on my desktop. Finish. Okay, now let us go back to our test, the QTP test, and you see that it is actually taking all the data from here, right? Fine. Let's unnecessarily, I don't want to confuse you. We will actually open a new test again. a totally new test. We'll open a totally new test, and this is launching the flight application. And after launching the flight application, I want to do the recording of on one single test data. So click on record, click on OK, and give some test data. User 1 for our example, Mercury. Click on OK. And once the flight application opens, close it. Finish. Stop the recording. So you have generated for one single test data. Now my requirement is whatever test data I have stored in the flat file, I want that data to be imported into my data table. Okay, you're understanding. We are already having some test data using which I want to check the flight application. Okay, these values I want to send as parameters. But the first thing I would like to do is I want to bring it into the data table. So this is how you can do that. Just right click anywhere on the data table, activate the data table first. Okay, ensure that view and this data table is activated. If it is activated, come here, right click on the data table and go into file. What is it that we are trying to do? We are importing from a file, right? So click on import from file. It is saying that the column headings should be, it should match with the data table, which means whatever data you have given in the first row of your flat file, whatever data you might have given, that data would be converted as a column name in your data table. So you need to ensure that in the first row you give only the column titles, nothing else. You can't give the test data. If you give the test data in the first row, even that would be treated as a column heading. Okay, so just be careful with that. Two rules. One is the first row should have only column names, and the delimiter, the separating criteria, should always be a tab. Okay, now ensure that, click on OK, and it's asking you from where you would like to select. By default it's selecting only the Excel files. I'll say that I want to select all files, and from the desktop I would like to select. This is the file, right? Test data is the file. So click on open. You see, automatically all the data which was present in my flat file has come over here. Now just change your program, a little bit of descriptive programming that we have done. You have to say data table dot value, data table dot value, what data you are trying to take, from which column you are trying to take. Agent name is what I am trying to take. Agent name is what I am trying to take, and where it is present, in which sheet it is present. You need to give the sheet number. It is present in the global sheet, right? All our data is present in the global sheet. So 1 is the sheet ID for the global sheet. If your data is present in action sheet, you will give the number as 2. Okay, that's it. Now global sheet, and similarly with the password also. Let me remove this secure and let me remove all this stuff. I'll say data table dot value. It's the password that we are trying to take, right? Password, there's actually some problem in my keyboard. Password comma 1. It's also is present in the same global sheet. If you observe, you will see that even this data, the password, everything is present in the global sheet. So the sheet ID would always be 1, nothing more than that. Okay, now run the program with this test data. Run the program with this. Let's run with this test data and see how it's working. It will, the same thing would happen. Again, it will log in 4 different times. Various ways of parameterization we are trying to understand, friends. Okay, using most of the time it's happening through the data table. Most of the times it's happening through the data table. Wherever the test data is present, I'm bringing it into my data table, and then I'm seeing that the parameterization, ensuring that parameterization is happening. Okay, now the last form of parameterization that we would be seeing, the other forms of parameterization, directly from the flat file you can do parameterization. It's not necessary that you need to bring it into the data table and then do the parameterization. All that stuff directly, how to invoke the data from the flat file and put it on the software, how to put it in the VB script program. We have seen all that stuff in our descriptive programming, right? Similarly, from Excel also, how to bring the data, we have seen that using the descriptive programming. We will just see how to bring all that data from the Excel file into the data table, and how to do the parameterization. That is what we are trying to learn over here. Okay, so the next topic is, if the test data is present in Excel, what will I do? From Excel also you can bring the same test data. Let me open my Excel. You need to have Microsoft Excel, friends, and again the same rule applies. The first row should have the column names, agent name, then after agent name the second thing that I would like to enter is the password. So password. Put some test data similar to what we have done previously. Let me just increase the size so that it looks a little better. Fine. The agent name that I would like to give is user1. The same data I'm giving, there's no difference. Mercury. Again user2, Mercury, user3, and Mercury. That's it. This test data, this much of test data is sufficient. Let me save it. Fine. While saving, you need to be careful. See, basically I'm using MS Office 2007, and whenever you save any Excel file, they would be saved in the XLSX format. That is not something that's not acceptable by QTP. You need to ensure that you save it with the .xls extension. Okay, so click on save as, and check whether you have a format wherein I can save it as a .xls extension. Let me just check. We need to save it with the .xls extension. Any other extension if you give, it won't understand. Fine, let's say test data .xls. I'm not sure whether it's really getting saved with that extension or not, but let me check. Click on save option. I think it is saved. Let's go to the desktop and check its extension, whether the extension has come in the correct way or not. Let us check that. See, this is my test data. Right click on the properties, and yes, the extension is .xls extension it's showing, which means yes, it's going to work. There's no problem. So I will again do the same thing, friends. I'll record the test data on one particular thing, or else unnecessarily, because you have already understood how things are happening. Let me remove all this data. We'll just make this as a blank sheet. Okay, and this agent name which I have selected, let me restore it back to the defaults. Okay, so you are not having any test data over here. I just want to import the data from the Excel file. That is what I'm trying to show you. So right click, again say file, and the same thing, import from file. Click on OK, and this is the file that I want to import this time. Click on open. See, the same thing has happened. Run the program and you will see, it will work on the multiple test data as we have seen. Okay, so this is parameterization using the QTP tool without having much programming knowledge. These are the different types of parameterization that can be done. Using descriptive programming, we have seen other forms of parameterization, right? Like bringing the data from the XML, bringing the data from Excel directly, taking the data from flat files directly, not through the data table, directly from the flat files, taking the data from the database. All these things can be done. So many different ways are there. Okay, so this is about parameterization, friends. I'll send you all the navigations of whatever we have covered in today's session. So just go through them, try to practice them, and any questions or any doubts, we can actually look into that in the next session. Okay, so take care for now, all of you. Bye bye. We'll meet again tomorrow at the same time, and we'll continue on the other utilities of QTP. Okay, bye for now.